You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn connects you with experts from all over the world to help you take charge of your career, your business, and your life. Rap along with us. Visit drjacalyn.com to learn how to become a guest or a sponsor. And now, the doctor is in.
Hi, welcome to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn presents A Better You. Lessons from the best coaches, consultants, and trusted advisors. I am your host, executive producer, director, and broadcast engineer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. I love this program because it's sort of my little baby, and it's actually the brainchild of my partner, Alcini. But I have handpicked experts, leaders, people who are at the top of their game, the top of their field, to come on and present lessons that are 15 minutes approximately. And to take these lessons and have them built into a playlist attached with a quiz that people can then go to our online learning platform and purchase. So each of these programs is a presentation. There are no interviews. And today my guest is taking on the challenge of doing 2 presentations. Can you believe it? Let's welcome him to the program, Mike Boissonneault. It's nice to see you, Mike.
Good to see you. Thanks I was just dancing along to the music, the lead-in music. It's got a very choppy beat to it. I like it.
Well, thank you. Alcini and I had to go through a lot of different tunes to try to pick the right ones. We picked that. And it's funny, sometimes up here in my office on one of my monitors, YouTube will start playing and I hear the music. I'm like, no, please, I don't want to hear it anymore. So, Mike, it's so nice to see you. You were here with us. I think last week was your first presentation.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it was. And this will be my the second in the 8-part series on the HR disciplines for non-HR business managers.
Fantastic. We're really looking forward to it. Before we begin, I want to spotlight you and have you tell us a little bit about yourself. And I learned backstage that you have earned 3 Emmys.
I did, and they were they're team Emmys. But when you lead a team, I spent 35 plus years at ESPN. So as we built our big brand, we were put out there and with a big spotlight. So we had the best teams and the best operations and producers around us all the time. And I did win 2 for the SportsCenter series and 1 for the NFL draft. And I think it was 1996. So
congratulations.
Thank you.
I love it. That's fantastic. All right, I'm going to spotlight you. This isn't your lesson. This is just for you to share a little bit about us, about yourself, who you are, and the value that you bring to this lovely world.
Well, I hope I bring a little bit of value to this lovely world. It's a beautiful day today as well. I mean, to be in the Northeast today is really a blessing. I've spent the last 40 years, I know I look very young, but I've spent the last 40 years in media. I spent 35 plus at ESPN, where I had roles in operations, production, human resources, and technology engineering. And one of the things I learned along the way was to be very open and research a lot about the industry that I'm in, but also about the skills required to manage. And I think if those terms go to all industries. So when I spent time in human resources, it was not from a lack of being quiet. I was always one who corralled people around to help managers lead and managers learn and managers grow. And when I was in HR, I had an opportunity to speak up and help to bridge a little bit of that divide. It's kind of an institutional divide where HR is very educated, very certified, very good at very adroit at what they do. And sometimes it comes across in a different way or a negative experience going into a business. So I wrote a book, and in my book, there's 8 chapters in the book that deal directly with a type of HR discipline, but I write it in the language and the speak of managers. So first or second tier managers can learn a little bit about it. So that's my passion. My passion is there. I retired in 2015. And a couple of years ago, created another media network called Rewirement Media. And we have a streaming TV channel called alee+, ALEE, which stands for A Life Ever Evolving. We target 50 plus and with lifestyle content. And the older you get, the more our entertainment library can suit you. So we've got a nice website and digital platform, and we're continuing to grow.
Thank you so much for being on our team of elite charter presenters. We are really blessed to have you here. And, Mike, I think it's interesting over time, at least when I was in the corporate world, how the role of HR has changed. So for so long, HR didn't have a seat at the board table. They were sort of like a silo in the back office somewhere. And go ahead.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. When I broke into the business out of college, it was really personnel. And if we remember, the office was personnel, and that's where you brought your application. If you had an issue with your paycheck, if you had an issue with another employee, or something going on in your life, you may have sought out an HR representative. And then HR started to evolve, and the more HR got very important into the business, they became more business savvy, and that's really what the crux of the book is really bringing HR to that table for a reason. But it's also, don't leave the managers behind. Let's help the managers to grow along with that, so that relationship can be much more valuable.
Well, I'm really looking forward to your second lesson. Are you ready, or would you like me to take a commercial break? You're ready. Okay.
It's up to you. I'll let you direct me.
Okay, perfect. So we'll go right to your second presentation with your first one today. And I will remove myself, and I will include your...
the screen share. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. Here we go.
Okay, these lessons are designed to give business managers a general understanding and working foundation of the many disciplines that encompass business managing in the HR role. It's not meant to be an HR certification course. Instead, it's really HR insight for managers. So the content is contemporary and fluid. Many of the best applications of current HR and business management will be mentioned. So I will at times refer to human resources as advocacy. It's a term I recommend based on a very positive vibe, advocate, and the fact that human resources supports both business and human resources, not just HR anymore. Advocacy. It's a much more supportive term. And these lessons are meant to help business managers, first and second tier managers, with an inside look at HR practice and the tips and learning for applying some of them into their routines. They will make a manager stronger. So why is this? Why do I do this? America has an endless number of small companies and major corporations, and we'll focus on business and people. For example, the life cycle of an employee from candidate to retiree is a very significant roadmap. Let's not forget that. But remember, without rules and organization, businesses fail and economy suffers. So I'll talk about some of the theoretical practice and offer some endorsement of some of the best human resources practices. So we agree that HR blends people management and business support. It's very important that new managers understand more of the soft skill of people managing. That produces good results and grows leaders. So additionally, knowing how and where a business fits into the marketplace of any given company or industry can also strengthen a manager's acumen. So this whole 8-part lesson is to strengthen a business manager's acumen. So I anticipate that participants in this will be from both the HR practitioner side and new business managers. So it's good for each side to understand and embrace each other's specialty areas. So I'll try to correlate the HR discipline with the business manager's role wherever I can. Employee data is today we're going to concentrate basically on employee data. Employee data is a very necessary part of any company's files. You could produce whatever you produce. It's very important, sales and marketing as well. But employee data is just as important and maybe even more discreet. For example, information regarding details on applicants, candidates, employees, retirees, it's all very protected. So this information includes bank information, social security numbers, personal banking, insurance information, beneficiaries, salary, benefits, even performance management. Everything is very understood to be very discreet. The information must be recorded, stored, and protected. So a manager's role has some role in governing and managing employee data. A manager learns early to protect personal data. That includes securing your environment. No loose files or faxes anymore. This is a legal regulation. So that's one of the things that a manager should learn about employee data is the discretion. The HR systems, which house the data, are generally off limits to those outside of HR, outside their division. But if there is no HR division, and that's part of the role of a manager or front office, they handle that. Compensation data is very critical to the success and workflow of a company as well. Managers should understand what information should be kept under what I quote, lock and key terms. The information that's only available through a legal or personal protocol. For companies that cannot afford to own and maintain their high secure systems, there are now centralized resources with cloud storage available through reputable, high-tech, and very secure companies. The term shared services, that's an HR, quite a bit of HR terminology in there. It's used in this respect as well. So sharing the service and the security of data is often a cost-effective and an efficient model for a lot of companies. So buying a license or a subscription and having an experienced company accountable for the data input and reporting is a very safe and smart way to do business. How does your company deal with sensitive data? That's what you ask yourself as a manager. Integrating payroll systems with performance management. These are other ways that systems and creates a benefit and efficient business model. It can reap rewards if a company has their own system, and if a company has to outsource it, it puts a little bit more of the onus on the managers to manage that relationship. And then regarding research and analytics, consider an employee or consumer's answers to company surveys. Believe it or not, while analytics play such an important part of business today, the big data is very effective at predictive analysis, and a lot of big data comes from surveys. So the survey information includes a lot of very personal and identifying information that is also just as protected as others. These are very important to know about the data protection of employee data to a company and the manager's responsibility. So there are many systems, tools, and vendors that comprise HR systems. When researching which are the best to utilize, consider the cost, the effectiveness, the reliability, and the security. If you're a new manager, learn how to effectively and discreetly enter and exit through this data files. Learn what steps are yours and which are ones that you leave for a more experienced manager or an HR partner to deal with. So often these systems might feed data fields to tax or an employment status. Be careful where you tread when you're working through those files. The correct system should also have interdependent role with other systems, if possible. So that would allow for merging data and reports and not having to create additional interfaces that dismantle or disseminate information. So the same criteria should be used if you outsource some of your systems. You want a very safe, very secure, and very robust system that you would want to protect that data as much as possible. Many of the systems that are controlled in these roles will house critical data, could be summoned for certain legal proceedings. So leaders who have access to this information should be reminded of their role in compliance and compliant recording and retrieving of any discrete data. So knowing, I know it's very technical, but there is you have to be very discreet when it comes to any employee data. Compensation is a very complex area of business. Obviously, compensation is a term associated with placing a monetary value on a person's title or a job role, basically based on job title, marketplace, and experience. Competitors also employ similar roles, so there is market analysis or market data available when comparing and when researching for the monetary value of a role. For our course, we'll deal specifically with the money plus. And when I say the money plus, there are other rewards, other entitlements that go into figuring out the total worth of a job. So how valued are you and your individual employee? What's the value of your job total? How much data is analyzed? How many types of information or criteria is used to determine that number? And that number is really the basis of the range of pay that you would put out for candidates looking for a job or people that are growing through your jobs. And we refer to that answer as total rewards. Everything that you can add to a job that is part of that that factors in becomes total rewards. So consider all the factors and make sure that they're equivalently and equitably distributed amongst your jobs. So what else is considered in the value? What are we talking about when we're talking about these other factors? Entitlements such as paid or even unpaid leave. Unpaid leave can be sometimes just as valuable to someone. Unpaid leave. Insurance benefits, savings, investment plans, cash or stock incentives, pension plans, training platforms, other maybe transportation subsidies, discount programs, tuition reimbursement. There's all kinds of other programs that collectively add up to the worth and the value of a job. This is all part of the compensation program, and they become total rewards. It's something that becomes a very good tool for managers to use when dealing with growth, promotions, and even the hiring. So what other steps factor into a salary increase and growth in a role? Performance management. Once you're in the role, it's generally based on some sort of merit and salary. Performance management reviews are official formal evaluations that typically will directly involve a salary increase in growth. Compensation systems play a role as they manage this information. They compare salaries. They contain bonus and annual merit awards. So whatever those annual buckets and forecasted buckets of awards become and budgeted for go through this compensation planning. And a business leader may work closely with an HR partner to find the right balance of those awards. And that's good managing. So in companies with an internal or centralized HR division, this process is a formal and efficient way to provide checks and balances to the budget. So if the budget is forecast and the budget is reconciled and it's coming out very positively, you've done a great job as a manager learning how to use the compensation. In the previous lesson, in lesson 1, we discussed the depth of an org chart. How deep dive do you go into an organizational chart? An org chart depicts the growth of positions and titles in a linear fashion. Once established, they should be compared to a marketplace. So you want to establish a good org chart, you're able to then do a good market analysis for your jobs. You try to compare your roles based on what they do specifically within your business and then where you're located geographically. Some of the big markets are adjusted as necessary based on cost of living and then the competition nearby. And the reverse can be said about a smaller market. So common terms of employee maybe above the line or below the line, which typically refer to where does a job sit. Is a job sitting in a salaried, non-hourly paid, maybe managerial position, or is it an hourly paid, non-managerial position? In a job family, we create roles with appropriate titles that start at the beginning. So at the bottom of the pyramid is your entry-level job, and the top of the pyramid is the manager overall below. And the string that goes up adds roles and responsibilities, and each of those has more worth, more value, more of those total rewards as you climb up the pyramid. So they normally share a common core of graduating skills, experiences, and education. So the higher you get within a certain specialty, the more skill, experience, and education you will have attained for that. So now that you have the job family, you can start to add in all of those total rewards to every position in there, and you'll start to aggregate the entire cost of a workforce. And that's an important piece for annual budgeting. So one other fact of business that I would hope managers might consider is that they have started generally in either entry level somewhere or regular staff. And then they convert and shift from staff to management role. It's very important to understand what the differences in the responsibility is and the skills and competencies required to supervise people. So in addition to other assignments, it means a shift in the responsibilities as well as the training. So there should be about a 50 to 75% differential in continuing to deliver hard skills versus soft skills. So soft skills are what's going to lead you to effective people managing. So building teams, influencing others, delegating responsibilities. Those are the type of soft skills that, while you can learn how to do things in a process, Some of them should become more intuitive as the manager gets more and more experience in the role. Communication, reporting, assigning, sometimes delegating, are all types of the expectation that comes clearly with the role of managing and managing people. So there's a lot of employee data. We went through it quickly. These are top line areas for more research that aggregate a workforce in a successful business. So as in all of these modules and these training modules, what we do is we put up a support center slide. And in this slide, each of the topics on the left give you an opportunity to review on your own and do a deeper research and find more information. So when you think about glossary, latest terms, are you on top of latest terms? Are you keeping up with the latest terms? Periodicals, where is the news of your business discussed, debated, promoted, distributed? What can you get from a periodical? The industry consultants, who do you follow? Who do you interact with? Who do you read so that you can continue to advance your skills? References, very important. Where's your playbook? Where are your training tools? Trade organizations, who is setting the standards for your industry and where can you stay connected? And the continuing support network is really about who you rely on for mentoring, guiding, and motivation in your role. A couple of resources, on the page as well as a book. And I'll always make sure that you have names and links on these as well that you can follow. So that's it for the employee data. I want to make sure that you know that these are excerpts from the book that I wrote, Soft Skills and Leadership. It's available on Amazon. Quick little promotion there. It's a workforce management and advocacy bridge building book. So if you're a first or second tier manager, I think it would be well worth your effort to go pick one up. And that's it, Dr. Jacalyn. We'll come back to the studio.
Excellent. Great job. I thought I loved how you set the audience for the presentations, first and second line managers. You presented the information in a very succinct and understandable, clear way. And I like the use of the questions. It's, get you to think about, well, what are you doing in your own organization? A few things I wrote down. So you had mentioned shared services, and I was wondering, does this mean outsourcing?
Yes, it typically would mean either outsourcing or crossing divisions in a company. There could be shared files in a company. So the accounting office and the HR office obviously work together to maintain the right budgets and salary information and so on. Or it's also outside shared services between maybe two companies under an umbrella. So if there's an enterprise with more than one company that maybe has a centralized HR function, you're now utilizing the shared services of a centralized HR.
Wonderful. It makes a lot of sense. The next thing I thought was interesting when you were talking about research and analytics, and you were talking about big data that comes from surveys, and the data is protected. So I wasn't aware of that because so many times in corporate world, you have to fill out these surveys. And I always think, I wonder if anybody, what are they doing with this information? And so it's good to know it's protected.
It's, there's really two good ways to do surveys. The survey that would go out to a consumer, you're really looking for probably something to do with predictive. Where will they consume something, buy it, watch it, go travel toward it. That kind of information, you get a lot of demographic and just short of names and, social security numbers. Internally, you already have those names. So if you're doing surveys within a company, many times companies will do anonymous surveys and ask, employees for satisfaction. Or they might even do a 360 survey on a leader. They take a leader and then, there's a handpicked or a selection of people that may be taking a survey. Clearly, that needs to stay as discreet as possible because you would never want retribution based on a comment or a rating point. But it clearly gives great data to feedback and make change. And it also protects the employees because it gives them a voice that doesn't have to be known, where it came from, but it gives them a very monitored voice. And there are some really good companies very, very highly reputable companies that can come in and conduct a good survey for you and keep all of that straight and safe.
And I think a lot of the quality of the data that you're going to receive depends on how the questions are worded.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. There's ways to do it where there's multiple choice, or there's ways to do it where they ask for a comment. Why did you pick that? And the follow-up is very important sometimes, because they may have perceived a certain answer would be somewhere in the middle of things, and where you go, left of center, right of center from that answer helps them to determine what kind of change would be required, or what kind of communication afterward would help, because it gives people a voice. Managers really need to reinforce when these things come out, because sometimes they're not directly involved. It could be an executive who's being surveyed or looking at survey data. So the managers really rally their teams to take part. And there is one misconception that I've seen for years, and not only in the companies that I was in, but in others, that if things are going well, people are reluctant to take a survey because things are going well. They think surveys are for them to create change. But if you want more of the same because it's working well, you might want to take that survey because it reinforces it.
Good to know. That's a great point. I also wrote down money plus figuring out the total worth of your job and total rewards. And I think one thing that I sold reward and recognition programs for years. And I think one thing that people don't take into consideration is, let's say you earn a trip, an incentive travel trip, or let's say you're in a recognition program where you earn points and you redeem it for merchandise and you get that grill, you get the watch. So that's all part of total rewards, right?
Yeah, it's all part of it. And some of it could be a sign-on bonus. Right now, what we're seeing around the country is the disparity in pay for certain industries like hospitality and food. And if people are reluctant to go back to work because they have to factor in things like maybe their daycare has to come back and they're going to cost more to do things, and they're not making a lot of money in an industry, and the food industry is one example. Some restaurants and some chains are giving sign-on bonuses to come back. So that's part of probably the CARES Act and what Washington is helping to drive people back to work. But I think that's an incentive. And other times it could be that you're being bid on by two companies or two competitors, and therefore it's going to raise your value. So part of that value could be, oh, we're going to give you more. We're going to give you moving expenses, or we're going to fly you in for your interview and you don't have to, you'll do it in person, or we'll give you more, maybe more benefit or more subsidy in your day-to-day, or maybe more stock options or something like that may come along with it. So that can all be used as a tool where you've got a certain limit, but if you don't have to use it all, you've actually saved what could have been the high end of the total reward. And that goes back into the company, and then the company can spend that on their bonuses or some of their plans.
Yeah, it's good to actually take it all into consideration. So I think for people watching, when you figure out what your worth is, the worth of your job, I should say, you have to look at all of those factors that Mike mentioned. So fantastic. So great job. We're going to take a break and give you a break. And then we'll come back and you'll be presenting again. I can't wait for part 3. All right, stay with us. We'll be right back on A Better You, lessons from the best coaches, consultants, and trusted advisors. And Mike, here we go. Hello, I'm Dr. Jacalyn. Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn presents A Better You. And here to tell us more is the creator of A Better You, Al Sini. Al, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dr. Jacalyn. It's always a pleasure working with you and everyone out there. You might be a coach working with individuals professionally or personally, or you might be a consultant working with businesses, or you might be a trusted advisor specializing in an area like finance, let's say, or the law or healthcare. Whatever of those roles you relate to, you all have one thing in common, and that is you're working every day to help people become better versions of themselves, a better you. And Dr. Jacalyn's A Better You program is an opportunity for you to express your expertise, in a particular area for 15 minutes in front of an audience of people who are looking for help from people like you.
Yep.
So, Dr. Jacalyn, maybe you can tell everybody how they can learn more about this.
It's so easy. You go to abetteryou.tv and you sign up to book your session.
It's what we do together that counts. The Big Alliance story. A true story about faith over adversity, perseverance, and entrepreneurship. Read Earl's story and how he became an entrepreneur. Available on Amazon, Kindle, and Audible.com. For more information, contact Earl Hurd at earlhurd@bicalliance.com or call 1-800-460-4242.
The world of healthcare is benefiting us in many ways, but the risk of becoming a victim to an airborne infection is increasing at a fast pace too. There are threats from viruses, allergic pollen, and chemicals which cause you loss of health, income, business, mental health, family and friends. All are at stake. One solution to this threat are the BV Air Sanitation Placide-based systems. When you call our team on 0208 104 3253, you find out about the amazing protection available. Protection that uses certified Battlefield, tested, standard and customized air disinfection systems for your personal and business use. Each system uses a filterless technology known as Placide, which attacks all airborne particles with microlighting to destroy and eliminate viruses and other harmful particles in your office, transport and home. You also benefit from extra bonuses such as low running and maintenance costs, no regular filter and part changes. You get to work with our trained experts and professional staff and be made aware of the latest in airborne protection and disinfection strategy. Keep yourself healthy by working with our trained experts and Placide virus killing systems, which keep you safe from airborne viruses. BV Air Sanitation Limited. We save lives, save businesses, and prevent infection. Schedule your free consultancy call and virus protection checklist. Call 0208 104 3253 or connect to us on www.bvbuster.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. You're watching Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn presents A Better You. Lessons from the best coaches, consultants, and trusted advisors. And if you're just joining us, Mike has already presented 2 lessons of his 8-part series, and he's written a book called Soft Skills and Leadership. And Mike, you have the book there. You just want to hold it up?
Yep.
Perfect. There it is. And he's really trying to help first and second level managers. Anything I missed on that, Mike?
No, I think it's first and second level business managers to learn more about HR, the inside of HR.
Fantastic. So now you're going to present a part 3. Are you ready to go?
I am. Part 3 we'll do, we're going to talk about what would be the employee relations role in HR, and I'm calling them the employee advocate role. So
okay. Advocate, I like that. All right, here we go.
So again, to reiterate, thank you for having me here today to go through my lesson number 3. These lessons are designed to give the business managers a general understanding and foundation of the many disciplines that encompass business managing and the HR role. And is not meant to be an HR certification course. Instead, it's HR insight for managers, business managers. I will at times refer to human resources again as advocacy. It's a term I recommend based on a very positive vibe, advocate, and the fact that human resources supports both business and human resources, not just HR anymore, advocacy. These lessons are meant to help the business managers, often first or second tier managers, as we know, with an inside look at the HR practice and tips for learning and applying some of those into your routines, which will make a business manager stronger. And we do this why? America has an endless number of small companies and major corporations, and we'll focus on both business and people. And for example, the life cycle of people, the life cycle of a product, the life cycle of people starts when you're a candidate and ends when it never ends, because potentially you're a retiree someday. So at some point you may be getting people at their start, the middle, or the end of their life cycle as an employee, similar to where you are on the supply chain for a product. It's a very significant roadmap when you're dealing with the life cycle of an employee, because without rules and organization, as I always say, businesses fail and economy suffers. I'll talk about some of the theoretical practice and endorse some of the best practices of human resources. So we agree that HR blends people management and business support. It's very important that managers understand more of those soft skills of people managing that produce good results and grow leaders. And additionally, business managers should know where a business fits into their marketplace of any, or even into the industry of any given company. It strengthens a manager's acumen to know this. And it's good for each side, HR and business side today, to understand and embrace each other's specialty areas. And I'll try to correlate the HR discipline. So today we're going to be talking about employee advocacy. This would become really, it's taken from employee relations. And employee relations is generally the typical term of the HR generalist, the HR person that you've probably know more than any other one in the group, because they tend to wear the most amount of hats. And we're gonna dive in now. So successful companies, business should start with a well-written and very organized employee handbook. This is a defensible reference manual. Both staff and management read it and relate to it. So it should contain the rules of professional conduct, scheduling, time off, entitlement, general information, and any known standing policies that govern normal business. This is what a business should be founded upon, and the employee advocate or employee relations today in an HR capacity is generally the one who reads, writes, originates, edits, and keeps these on hand. Additional information may contain benefits information, orientation, or onboarding process, even a protocol supporting the separating of an employee or even the retirement process. All information is company specific. Now, for some companies who might be franchised or part of a larger enterprise, a matrix of information should be available. That employee handbook is the cornerstone of your business. So I refer to a specific responsibility that all managers should or could aspire to be. That is the conscience of the organization. In HR, that would be the employee relations role, who supports the rules and the policies of the company as a whole. There's an important set of competencies in this role. It's similar to defending the rule of law. Those that write it and those that defend it are kind of blended into one when it comes to the employee handbook. Support and defend both employee and employer. That's another piece of this role. You're supporting both the employee, and the employer in the role. So bring a balanced set of investigative and solution-based fact-finding. You're going to rule on issues sometimes that are covered in the handbook, inevitably challenged by staff or management. You're going to find true business solutions to the complex interaction of employees who cross the lines. That's when it becomes behavioral. So they bend or break rules, bring risk or threat to company productivity through behavior. So that means you stand up and defend the brand. You live by your mission and respect the values. You as a manager should set a standard and continually evolve in your profession and your performance through the growth and opportunity to learn more about this role. A manager speaks both for and as the company at times, and you should follow and learn from the best examples you can find. That's company protocol. Employee relations is usually the HR office that deals with policies and company roles, supporting both management and employees, as we said. Companies must have rules of order, conduct, and operation. For example, and the employee advocate role is responsible for at least the interpretation, if not the origination and ongoing governance of rules. So that's part of the deal, part of what you sign up for when you become a manager It's part of your role as a manager, but it's really the role that brings from the HR insight. Again, think of the role as the conscience of the organization. The role becomes both counselor and disciplinarian at times. Most workforce managers, business leaders, will deal in some employee issues, employee relations issues within their own role. Employees will generally go to a supervisor or manager when there's an issue of any kind that needs explaining or a resolution. To the degree that a manager does not feel comfortable or qualified to make an answer or the interpretation of the role, they will usually enlist the help of a senior leader, an owner, or an HR professional. Again, this is dependent on the size and structure of your company. The more experience a manager gets, the more comfortable they'll generally feel about taking on some personal issue, but what to do with it. There are protocols and there are procedures to follow. This could be a workforce or a work environment related these issues. And you should follow company protocol to start the process. Many companies will follow some sort of escalating or progressive steps in handling issues. Documenting each conversation in a professional way and investigating issues properly are critically important to the role. Documenting, especially if it's handled by a business manager. A business manager should document, not diagnose. Very, very important. Some issues may get to a legal proceeding, and that makes these early stages where a manager gets involved very significant to get right. So again, documentation is key. Diagnosis is left for the professionals. The most personal interaction in the role is usually regarding benefits. People tend to go to this role, whether it's in HR or it's in lieu of an HR, to a manager regarding something to do with benefits, something to do with a paycheck, something to do with insurance, something to do with something that they perceive is wrong and they need interpretation. Benefits are so important to each employee, and the manager should be calm or organized, because it's equally as important to them is the bond and the trust they have with their managers. And that's where a good manager will learn to listen, take all the facts. If you know the outcome, or you understand the navigation through the system, you can go for it. And if you don't, you take it as quickly and expediently as you can to the next level. You must have the employees and the employer, but the employee's best interest at all times, because that's your employee. That's the personal relationship you have with each of your employees. You may even go to battle with your corporate structure or your bureaucracy as necessary, but you want to have your facts straight. Don't advocate for your employee unless you have your facts straight. So benefits management really starts at the recruitment stage. That's when people start to learn about the benefits and the entitlements and the rewards of a company. And that's really where they hear it, because they're also hearing it not from a manager, perhaps they're hearing it from a recruiter or other. So therefore, that the management of all of these sets of facts and benefits and information starts very early. Some are managed over time, some are vested over time, some are available after a certain period of time, and sometimes it's a one-time and out, and some benefits age over time. So it's really important that if you don't know all the benefits, that's another piece of this, that you get people into the right hands when they're talking about benefits. Some benefits are legally protected. Some benefits are protected by union contracts, and still others may be fleeting and one-time awards. Know your facts. If you're going to advocate on behalf of your employee, know your facts. That's a great opportunity to learn as a manager. The interaction between the HR professional and employees and management is a very critical part of the interaction. If the role is centralized, and you have an HR role, it's great, because you have an advantage there. They can help to determine the cadence of communication. How often will you meet? What's next? What are the next steps? The HR role is there for a reason. It's a great role. If they're not there, and this falls onto the manager to understand how often, you need to learn. You need to ask questions of those who are training you on the way into being a manager about timelines, and because you want to make sure that your regular communication regarding policies and procedures and important workforce bulletins is taken care of. But when you're dealing with staff and you're dealing with benefits or any other kind of personal information, you want to know what is your obligation to move it and escalate that conversation. Should this role be part Balance your communication effectively. Ensure messages are sent and received properly. Follow up. If you make a statement, you make a change statement, communicate a statement, ask, how do they receive it? Ask them to report back. Ask them to follow up with a note to you so that you understand that they understand what you just told them. So not all policy changes require full explanation. Some of them are just, it's not required. But people will interpret messages differently all the time. So the hybrid role of a manager and employee advocate at the same time makes it very important to balance the communication and make sure that you are completely aware of who's receiving information in what manner. You're a legal advocate. The employee advocate professional must be savvy in understanding basics of labor law and legal responsibilities as necessary to conduct day-to-day business. You may or may not have an HR in your division, on your floor, in your corporate structure, but you might have HR signage in the break room. You might have employment signs somewhere in the break room. You may see these. Those are actually legal, regulated legal documents that need to be shown. And those are, it's important for you to review them at times so you understand what they are. Being a manager, people will come to you for answers, and the better you are at addressing answers or steering them to the right reference is very important. Any interpretation or challenge to any of these documents should be brought into the HR professionals and legal partners to resolve disputes. The manager role should be the first one to engage, but when there's something to mediate in the workplace, let them use good protocol in handling the sensitivity. Make sure that you understand the progressive steps of handling information and communication. There are significant HR procedures that a manager must do every day and do them well. The most common of these is progressive discipline. That's a term that's been around for a long time. It's very important that they include addressing issues with all parties, setting ground rules, and reiterating policy. Set a foundation for progressive discipline. What was expected? What was the action? What was the result? What is the next step? Next, it's common to send out, could be warnings, could be written warnings, could be to repeat offenders. There's a lot of things that may happen in the next steps. And should issues continue, the documentation must be organized, must be thorough, and sometimes it may include terms that nobody ever wants to put on a paper and address with anyone, but often it's the case where you put leading up to and including termination. That's an incredibly sensitive and important statement. It's very embarrassing at times to the employee. So once facts are straight, once facts are sorted out, and once everyone agrees, sometimes that's a message that needs to be delivered. So as a manager, sometimes you have to deliver that negative news as well. Finally, should a firing be warranted, the manager, along with the HR and or the legal partner team, should act together to make the case and execute the orders. So retirement planning, retirement support, very sensitive. It should be regarded as discreetly as possible. Same as onboarding, same as growth in a role. Retirement is a very, very important part. The companies partner with external services very often to offer education and support through this process, which could take several months or even longer. And those several months happen before retirement at times. It may be a year or two or three before retirement that people start to go through this education for retirement. So beware, the employee may have a lot more understanding and reference material when they come in to ask questions than you do. And if you're not up on it, then you need to, as a business manager, understand more about the role of retirement support. And that may be making a phone call and setting up a meeting with a professional in the HR world of employee advocate world. It's important to know that when an employee gains the status to retire, it's a very special circumstance in an employee's life, and it should be handled with care. These are very, very big moments in someone's life. So encourage, support, ensure a seamless transition, and whether or not you've actively engaged in the steps toward retirement. Know that you do have a role and a part in there at some point. So whether the employee advocate role is inside HR or externally partner with you as a manager, you should expect the utmost of discretion and compliance when investigating, counseling, disciplining, policy changing, communicating, or otherwise engaging your staff and your HR team. Once again, in our support center, we've got plenty of items here to spur your research, including the glossary, stay on top of the terms. So if the terms here are employee advocate, employee relations, learn the terms, understand some of the terminology, makes you a better manager. Where's the news of the business discussed, debated, and promoted or distributed? Periodicals. Learn more about the HR roles through those periodicals. Who in the industry, who in the HR industry do you follow as a consultant? Where's your reference material? Where is your playbook? And where is your training tools? The playbook comes directly from the employee advocates. The trade organizations, again, they set the standards for the industry, where you stay connected. The continuing support, who do you rely on for mentoring? Who do you rely on for guidance when it comes to this part of it? You may have several, at the end of the day, you may have several different mentors for helping you through the process of managing. And again, there's some great books out there, some really good conversations, people to follow, and how to phrase good written memos when it comes with an HR slant to it. So once again, thank you for joining the module 3. This is workforce management and advocacy, the employee relations piece. Being an employee advocate is a very important role for a business leader, a business manager, and you can't go wrong when you treat employees with care and respect. They will respect you and work hard for you. With that, I'll go back.
Excellent. Nice job, Mike. You know, I have to say, I had no idea. I mean, I just never really thought about all the things that a manager is responsible for, especially when it comes to HR. It's a very long list.
And I think it's really where the manager in a smaller company that doesn't have an on-site or an internal HR, you're really taking on all of it. Or if you're a business owner, if you're the leader of a business, or you start your own business and hire a few employees, you're literally going to wear every hat. These just give you scratch the surface of it, but you'll know which ones, hey, if this happens, I need to go find somebody that I can make a call to, or you learn to deal with it yourself, and you learn to deal with it through just your own intuition.
And I think it's also interesting to note, as you had said, that the manager represents leadership and the company and the brand, but is also an advocate for the employee. And I'm wondering, I have a question for you about this. What happens when the manager becomes personally involved like you mentioned document, not diagnose, which I thought was huge. What happens when the manager decides to take a personal interest in the situation?
Yeah, you start to go down a slippery slope there, and depending on what it is, it could be so many different variances. And picking out an example, but I think the clearest example is if something happened and behavior was the result, while there was an expectation, because that came from you as the manager, you set an expectation. I need you to work at a certain time, and here's your role. That's really where a manager can document, I expected this, you did this, this was the result, from an operations standpoint, a sales standpoint, of on the floor of a retail or a fast food restaurant. The behavior that might have gotten out of control and been the disruption is really what a professional will diagnose, because there's got to be a different root cause. It wasn't something in your hard skills training. It's something that they brought to bear. Let a professional do it, because if you put a diagnosis in a report, your shift report, we'll say, and this is what I cover in the book as well. If you use a shift report and say, well, I think so-and-so is under too much stress at home, the first question, if it ever went to court for firing or whatever it may be, might be, and what gives you the degree or the authority to make that diagnosis? And you're defenseless at that point. That's why I use the term in the book. I use the term quite a bit, is defense. You are literally in defense of the company. You always want to make sure that you're in defense of the company, because no matter where you are, a leader, an owner, someone else could help you if you are personally involved. Then go to the next level, let that next level help. I think that's an important piece, and I learned that years and years ago, is don't diagnose, document. And from what wasn't delivered that night, I didn't make my sales, or we lost, three accounts that night because we couldn't cover them. Well, there was a root cause because there was behavior, and I'm going to let somebody else do that investigation.
That is such a powerful statement that you said. I have to say it again: don't diagnose. So for all of you out there who are in management position, please remember that. Mike, something else I just wanted to mention to you. Yesterday, I think it was yesterday, we had a guest on, and she's also a charter presenter, and she helps entrepreneurs to embrace the hiring of people with disabilities. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of fear that someone might have by disclosing they have a disability. And then the manager also has a role in making sure that that person is protected and has a workspace and everything they need to do their job.
Yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of small areas where you can be nimble and ask, or someone can offer that information up and you can follow up, because the follow up would be if someone came in and said, and you may not know this, but I have an XYZ disability, and then the follow up would be, do you require a certain type of workspace? Help me to understand what that means to the job at hand. So you're not asking for it, but so what you want to do in your posting of a job, I always say that when you, and we'll get to this when we do the talent acquisition piece, which I call filling the roster, is your job description is really about the job and the environment and what the company expects from a job, and how it's posted and marketed should be almost identical. There should be similar language, but in and around it, you want to be your ADA compliant, where we're non-discriminatory. The LGBTQ community is accepted. We're a diverse employer. If you put the right amount of kind of disclaimer in your posting, that's always there, that kind of opens it up for people to look at that and say, wow, they understand it, they embrace it, and they look for this. That's all part of the diversity of people at that point. Mm-hmm. So there are industries, and I would be happy to name a few, but there are industries that would welcome someone with disability that has the ability to work in their industry because of the nature of the business. I'll give you one example. It could be like a wheelchair company, and if a wheelchair company is making custom wheelchairs, and there are folks that have disability that might even be in a wheelchair but are creatively mobile and they're independently mobile, they may be a good fit for a job because they can relate to the base of the consumer that's coming into your business. And I think sometimes there's a good way for companies to put their information out there, and that kind of information would also be really good on your website. And on your website, think of your website as two things. It could be what we do as a business, but also who we are as an employer. And who we are as an employer, there's a bridge in between there that could be we're community focused and we focus on certain types of outreach and different things. And if that's part of your website and your job site, your career site, that also gives people an understanding of, because here's pictures of people. Here's pictures of the outing where we went out and we helped Habitat for Humanity or something out in the field. And it shows the community spirit, and it shows the giving, and it shows that. And now people can start to, a good candidate is going to do a lot of research on a company. And if they do it well, they're going to find out, they're going to probably ask you questions that you would be probably not allowed to ask right up front, but you're able to answer them because they're asking them. So they want to know, how can I fit in because I have this? And then say, well, what does that require from me? The ADA is, protects both sides because they want, you've got to have, the accessibility and so on. Everything from, are the curbs painted the correct way out in your parking lot to, can I reach over the counter and wash my hands or go to the cafeteria? There's certain things that you want to make sure that if you say you are and you say you're compliant, somebody may, call you out on it. On the other hand, It also, there's a lot of grant money available. I say a lot of grant money available. I've never gone for it myself, but I know the people that do that, and they would find the opportunity if you're going to hire someone that has a special need of something physical, workstation related, whatever. There's quite often there's grant money to be able to build in that accommodation.
Wow, I could talk to you forever. You are just a wealth of information. Thank you so much. You have just so much knowledge, and I'm just, again, so grateful that you're here and you're on our team.
So much of it, I will say this, I have been blessed. If someone told me 40 years ago, hey, you're graduating from college and you're going to go work for this little sports startup in Connecticut, and if someone told me that I would have had a tour through human resources and create a business operations team and the engineering group that's kind of leading the sports world, and I might have looked at them funny and said, who are you? You've got the wrong person. But when I look back, I say, wow, I have observed some of the greatest people in the world to work with. I've learned more from people that work for me than than I can even imagine, because every generation people come in. My daughter's 29, just about 29, and I learned from her and her generation so much. You think you have all the answers, and there comes a time where you say, you know what, the kids do have all the answers now, not when they were in high school, but since then, and you learn that. But I've been able to work with just fantastic people who, if you observe them and what they do. But I always observe to find out, how can you do that better? How can you do your job better? What can we do to do this better? How can we, if someone says, oh, gee, we may have to cut, or we don't have enough people, or we don't have enough resources, say, hold on, let me go back through there and let me figure it out, because I think we do. You just have to motivate people the right way. If everybody motivates people the right way, they'll put on a second or third hat.
Absolutely. Mike, can you please share with everyone how they can get in touch with you, and also about your book and being on Amazon, where they can purchase it?
Yes, you can find me. The book is on Amazon. It's Soft Skills and Leadership. Let me put this right up in front here. Soft Skills and Leadership, HR Insight for Managers. The book is available on Amazon if you'd like. And again, the book is really written like an open letter to business managers. I just, sending it to business managers in that speak. I'm available through alee Plus, our website for my streaming media channels, alee Plus, A Life Ever Evolving. And people can find me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Tell me where you saw me, so I know the references, the A Better You show, and I go to LinkedIn every day. I like to make sure that I respond as quickly as I can when I can on LinkedIn. So you can find me right on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to hear from anyone who's got questions and further the conversation.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mike. I will let you go. I know it is so hot here where I am. I can't wait to get this jacket.
It's a warm day. You don't realize how warm it got today, but it's beautiful. It's May and it's warm.
Yes, I'm much happier with this weather than the winter weather, but it just doesn't feel like jacket weather.
No, that's true. All right.
So you'll be back tomorrow, yes?
I will. I'll be back tomorrow with my the fourth one, which I believe is empowering people through education or training and learning.
Excellent. Well, we look forward to that, and I thank you for doing an outstanding job.
Thanks, Dr. Jacalyn. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too. Bye.
Bye now.
Wow, isn't he a wealth of information and experience? I hope that you go to Amazon and purchase his book. We have 2 more shows left for today. The next one is coming up at 4 p.m. Eastern Time or 9 p.m. British Summer Time. It's all about dating with my co-host Lisa Manioki, and our guest is Johnny Castle joining us from London. And then at 5:30 Eastern Time, 10:30 British Summer Time, we have A Better You, lessons from the best coaches, consultants, and trusted advisors. And our expert presenter this evening is Mariska Duprier, and she's joining us from the Netherlands. That's all I have in reference to our shows for today. Tomorrow we have 7 shows, and I'm not going to go through the whole rundown now. I will at the end of the day. But my new book is coming out. It's going to be available for purchase June 17th, but you can pre-order it on Sunday. So let me show you a picture of it. It's called Behind the Green Screen, How to Succeed in the Live Broadcasting Business. And this book is a how to create your own live broadcasting platform. So this is not a podcast. If this green screen falls down and you see the back of this room, that's the way it goes because it's live. We go from streaming on 6 different platforms to becoming a podcast, and then we're on 5 additional platforms. The book is my story of how and why I left corporate America last year. My last paycheck was March the 6th, 2020, and I created one show that was just on the radio. We were on Zoom. First, we were just on the phone, and then after that, we on the radio, and the broadcast engineer would join us on Zoom. And from there, we went to StreamYard, and I hired a producer, and we were just on Facebook and YouTube. Then I learned to do what the producer was doing. And then from there, we now have 17 shows, and I am the host, producer, director, and broadcast engineer doing it all. So it's been quite a journey. And then throughout the book, there's also personal stories of what happened to me in different cases in my corporate career. So it's a vulnerable share, and I hope that you'll be interested to read and find out more. That's Sunday. You can go onto Amazon and purchase the book, again, Behind the Green Screen, How to Succeed in the Live Broadcasting Business. My other message is, for those of you who don't know, I have 3 autoimmune conditions, and one is ulcerative colitis. I've had it since 1991. And I do a lot of fundraising for the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. And I've lived in shame and pain and humiliation. It's called the dreaded bathroom disease. And you wouldn't know necessarily unless you lived with me. But I didn't speak about it for 20 some years. And then I found the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, and I found my voice. And I started support groups, and I'm also a team captain for 3 different events. One of the events is coming up on June the 5th. It's called Take Steps Walk. And so I've committed to raising $3,000, which is actually low compared to what I normally would, but because of the pandemic, it's $3,000. And I'm woefully behind. I've only raised 1,000 something. So if you would go to my Facebook page, Jacalyn Kerbeck, and you could just put in Take Steps, you'll see the posting. And if you could donate even $1, $5, seriously, any amount is appreciated. I always remember everybody who supports me. The money does not go to me. I never see the money. It goes directly to the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. I would be truly grateful. That's all for today. We look forward to seeing you at the top of the hour for It's All About Dating. And again, Johnny Castle is our guest. He is one of the leading experts in dating, and he works primarily with men, and he helps them get in touch with who they are, figure out what it is they want, and he's got all kinds of accolades. He's also over there on Clubhouse if you get a chance to drop in and say hello to him. Thank you again. We'll see you soon.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling in my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, I mean, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.